I'm a believer of time boxing. Even for personal things, you should allow your brain to rest. You should even schedule break times, like schedule me time, schedule this stuff so you can disconnect. And you should be scheduling time with your spouse. I should be scheduling time with my wife, and I didn't. And then Shane is like, he's like, yeah, man, it's an entrepreneur. Like you're all over the place. I understand. And then he plugs his data in, or he signs up, and the first person is his wife. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And so it's like, that was a realization for me where it's like, and I think that like there's personal and professional benefits from, doing better with your calendar, because like in that case, if you have a better relationship with your wife or your spouse, you're going to have a better work relationship. You're going to be happier. And so I think that what I like about kind of what we're getting into is that even though it's simple analytics at this point, the more we help people understand is that like, what's the best version of myself?
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
What is your relationship with time? What is your relationship with your calendar? Do you have a love-hate relationship with both of these things? Well, if you're a leader and you're being pulled in many directions, you've got many people that you're leading and managing, and you've got a lot of clients, you've got growth to manage, and you've also got a family, you've got personal interest, then your time is essential. In fact, many people say it's your most valuable resource. I do believe that you can take simple steps to improve your relationship with time, to increase your productivity, increase your ability to focus, all of those things inside today's episode. Our guest is the co-founder of calendar.com. Calendar.com is a place where you can actually manage your time in a unique way through many of the tools they have. You can do it across your team as well. Calendar.com is a really powerful resource if you have a growing company and you want to take it to the next level. The guest today is John Hall. Now, I will disclose John is a personal friend of mine, but they have so much access to data around what is going on inside of our time, what's working, what's not working. And I thought it would be really good for you to tune in and listen to our conversation about time. I asked him some of the simple questions like, what are the 3 steps to improve your energy management with your time? And what do you need to stop doing? I love this conversation because time is such a critical element. If you want to get a free resource about time, I'm going to give it to you right now. All you have to do is go to genehammett.com/productivity. That will give you insight into how to spend your time. There's 3 exercises from guests that have been on the show before that will help you to reuse your time to the highest effective usage. When you think about your time, it's one of the most critical resources you have. Make sure you manage it. Go to genehammett.com/productivity. Now here's the interview with John Hall, co-founder of Calendar. John, how are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I am fantastic. Trying to match you in beard quality. I've got a long way to go.
Yeah. I mean, I would have at least trimmed it up here. I didn't like as I just told you, I didn't know we were doing video, but now we're doing video. You just get a raw form right here of just no trims at all. And actually, I did shave though, but at least I got someone cleaned up down here.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you. We go way back. We're friends from I don't know, probably 5-10 years. But we're going to talk about one of the new ventures that you're on. You've got this real big mission and something that really, I think a lot of us struggle with, which is our calendar. So you've got the domain calendar.com. Tell us what calendar.com aims to do.
Yeah, really we got into this. I mean, you know that in the past, like I've done a lot of PR and media placement and things to do with content. And as I was exiting the last company, my business partner, his name is John Rampton on Calendar. We had been talking a lot about what's important to us. Like I talked about like, what should I do a nonprofit next? Like, what are the different things that we can do in life? And what kept coming up, actually, as funny as it is, I wanted to do a CRM called Thoughtful, and it was about how we manage our time with important relationships. So I was like, oh, cool. It's not a nonprofit, but I can help people value the relationships that matter most to them. And so what ended up happening is we kept on being like, wow, like in reality, like the reason why people don't do this, because we were doing all this research, the reason why people don't do a lot of things they want is because they don't manage their time effectively, or they always say, I don't have time. A lot of times if you say, hey, do you want to do this? And somebody goes, oh, well, yeah, I'd like to, but I just don't have time. So then we became obsessed with this kind of time mentality of like being self-aware of how you're spending your time, making it easier to schedule, make it easier to understand how your team's spending their time. And so that's where, when we looked at calendar, there just wasn't anything out there that we love. Like we had used tools around us. We'd used Calendly, we used Schedule Once, we'd used different ones. And we actually, at the time, I think I was using 8 different calendar tools. And so, and I think there's good ones out there, but there's not a central one that is the one that hovers over Yahoo Calendar, Google Calendar, Outlook. And that's something that I needed because my wife's on Outlook, I'm on Google, my business partner's on iCal. And so I wanted a central place that would, basically be the part that can communicate across those platforms while bringing in the features, so I don't have to have 8 different tools. So that's how it sparked. And, what's been kind of a blessing from it is we've been able to see and understand a lot more of how, me, myself, how I spend my time, and how we can do things better, just by understanding the scheduling system and making it a lot easier.
I know you mentioned the calendaring tool, and I've seen different people respond to that calendaring tool as, "Oh, how dare you send me a link to schedule it? All the work is on my behalf now." I personally feel like these calendaring tools are one of the best inventions ever, because I don't have to go back and forth. There's, anytime I actually have to do the back and forth because I don't want to send the calendaring tool, I want a personal experience, it's painful. And when you are working with so many people, like, how do you suggest using that calendar link to book people on there? I know you've got some unique ways of looking at things, but some people really resist it. Others embrace it. How do you guys use that?
Yeah. So, if it's you, Gene, I'm just sending the link, and just because we have a relationship that I'm comfortable. If it's somebody I'm not, or it's more formal, I call this calendar etiquette. So it's basically that's a valid thing, is that some people are like, wait a minute, hold on, they might even think the link is cool, but people are habitual. So when you tell them to do something that's out of their outside habits, where they're used to just saying, hey, this is when I'm free. So I think that what you do there in that case is, like, I always, even owning, being a owner of calendar.com, I still say, hey, let me know what times work best for you, or you can easily schedule through calendar here. And so just adding that, and it's like, and I think that takes away the pressure of someone being like, oh, so I have to do this. And what's funny is that even people I know that don't like that, feel that way, when I give them the option and I say, hey, either do this or this, they always use the link. The problem is that when you only, it's kind of, yeah, there's people that when they have options, they're like, oh, this is awesome. And then they, pick that option and no problems. But if that's the only option, they're like, I'm not doing that. And so I think that just doing some calendar etiquette there and having that in your templates, I think that solves that problem.
I use that approach too sometimes. I think I go back and forth, but I wanted to, you see a lot of data across this. So my next question is going to be around data, but I wanted to, how do we best use those calendar links? So thanks for that insight. The data that you see, I don't know how many users are on calendar.com. We don't need to go into the secrets behind the sauce, but you've got a lot of data points. What are you learning by looking at all of these data points as you can have this kind of master view of what's going on inside of people's calendars?
Yeah, so simple like data, and I'm pulling this up, I'm paying attention, I'm not checking my email, but like when you look at this, like just very basic analytics. So when I'm looking at what, I told you about, I used to have a ton of hour meetings, more than an hour. And it's like, I can't hold my attention longer than 20 or 30 minutes. So the idea that I had, like at one point, there was one week I was 30% of my meetings were more than an hour. And now I'm down to, it looks like 5% of my meetings are more than an hour. So like, and that's where just understanding those things, how many I actually missed or canceled is down to one, there's been one in the last 2 weeks that I've canceled. That used to be like 10 or 15. Like I looked at that and was like, I'm kind of an asshole, to be honest with you, is that like, who cancels 15 meetings in a week? Like, that's not a cool person. And so it was like, and so I looked at that and I was like, all right, that's not cool. Ones that like certain things, it's like how you're spending your time. Like, when I look at this with who, for example, this was a funny one. I think I told you this story is that I'm sitting down with Shane Snow, who owns Contently, and we're having this dinner. This was before COVID. And I'm like, you know what? I've just plugged into my data into our analytics, and my wife wasn't even in the like top 30 people I schedule time with. Like that's like bad. She's such an important person in my life, and I don't even put her in schedule. And I'm a believer of time boxing, even for personal things. You should to allow your brain to rest. You should even schedule break times, like schedule me time, schedule this stuff so you can disconnect. And you should be scheduling time with your spouse. I should be scheduling time with my wife, and I didn't. And then Shane is like, he's like, yeah, man, it's an entrepreneur. Like you're all over the place. I understand. And then he plugs his data in, or he signs up, and the first person is his wife. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And so it's like, that was a realization for me where it's like, and I think that like there's personal and professional benefits from, doing better with your calendar, because like in that case, if you have a better relationship with your wife, or your spouse, you're going to have a better work relationship. You're going to be happier. And so I think that what I like about kind of what we're getting into is that even though it's simple at analytics at this point, the more we help people understand is that like, what's the best version of myself? Even on sales team, like we found out that like there's a lot of data that shows it's around 22 minutes is the best time for sales. There's a lot of information that goes into that. For example, you have 8 minutes left over to prepare for the next meeting, and also like reflect, write down notes, do different things. In addition is that long drawn out sales, they miss a lot of things, and like you move past a lot of the core things. And so, when you look at your salespeople, you can look and say, look, they're scheduling very consistently for 20 or for 25, 30, 30 minutes. These are scheduling calls for an hour. But the people who are doing better are the ones who are scheduling 30 minutes calls. This is a practice that we need to get going across our sales team. So there's a lot of data like that that you can look at and understand. And it's not big brother-ish. It's more of just understanding like, hey, this is how we can do things better. So it's not data that's making you come down on people. It's helping understand best practices of like what people can do to perform better.
Now hold on for a second. I want to make sure you understand what he means by scheduled time for a wife. One of the things I know as leaders is what scheduled gets done. And so if you want to think about spending time with your wife, especially in the time of COVID, especially in the time of being shut down, I would say you should be intentional about spending time with your wife. This is one of the areas where I'm going to be honest with you. I could do a better job. I love spending time with my wife. I love taking her for walks. I love going to dinner. I love doing all the things that are necessary. But do I put it on my calendar? The answer is not that much. So one of the changes I'm going to make because of today's interview is to put time on my calendar so that I'm spending time with my wife, also my son. So what are you going to do because of today's interview? Back to John. Now, as COVID has been around for 4-ish months through all this, are you noticing any differences in the way calendars are being used, or how we're able to approach our work? I know I've experienced a few things myself, but I want to know what you've seen.
Time has become a lot more important to people all of a sudden. It's people are a lot more caring about how they spend their time. Like this is like as sad as it is, like COVID is a very sad, thing that that's really bad for a lot of people. But there are some good things that have come out of it, in my opinion, is that the value of time, who we spend it with, how much we spend it with, how we work with our team members, how we get along with our team members. I think that there is some extremism going on in our world today, but I think that at least there is some good of people realizing that life is short, and people are valuing time more than ever. So we've actually had a lot more usage and people being on the tool a lot more, and understanding, and actually, like in US numbers, it's like we're getting somewhere between 300 and 500 new users a day. And so that was not the case 6 months ago. And so we are getting a lot of interest. And I think that it has helped people understand that time is more important. Scheduling is more important. Also with remote cultures, you have to be really good about time. Like, for example, one of the features we just did was find a time. And it shows your whole team what their schedule is on different accounts. So your account managers, your sales team. So I can go in and be like, here's all their times that are free. This is, this is a time where everybody's free, and then it sends it out. So, you had doodle functionality, which, is a cool tool as well, but that's a lot of manual and things like that. And so, we're looking at, as we're doing our, as we're doing these features, especially during the time of COVID, it's like, what is going to help people actually value their time more, and also be a better teammate, so that they're saving everybody time around them. And so those are the things that we're starting to kind of shift, to saying, in this time of COVID, what features are coming into play that are important to people. So I think it's been good for us, but once again, it's a sad, as we got on this call, it's like, it's a very weird time, and we need to be supportive of each other and look out for, how we can be better teammates.
I don't disagree with that, John. I appreciate you sharing some of these insights. I know you've got a lot of experience writing for some of the major publications in business, whether it be Inc. or Forbes and all the others out there. I'm going to give you a chance to do a listicle here. We love those listicles, right, as writers?
Yeah, I'll do a listicle. It gets a lot of views.
What are the top 3 ways of approaching your calendar to increase your level of energy? What are the top 3 kind of strategies that you either use yourself or that you've seen really help you manage your own energy when it comes to your calendar?
So first thing is time boxing. So time boxing, if you look up the term, it's simply just boxing out time for you have this amount of time to get this project or get this done. And that is a huge thing, because one, I love time boxing, and there's a lot of different resources for you here. You can read some of my content. Near Your Wall, he wrote Indistractable, great book to read. It's a yellow book. If you type in Near, he wrote the book Hooked. And he talks about time boxing as well, and has been for a while. And so and if you go across anybody who's a productivity kind of expert, they really value that, but they call it different things. So that's the first step, is that box out time. One, it's not like, some people think it's like crazy, but like, wait a minute, you schedule out 30 minutes for this, then this. And I'm like, yeah, like for, I schedule out when I get home 30 minutes for my, to be there for my daughter. So or my daughters. And so for those 30 minutes, I'm disconnected. I'm not thinking about work. Now, if I don't schedule that, as crazy as it is, I will think about work. And so I think that for me, it's given me more energy, because I'm able to allocate time and effort in the right way. And so it's vice versa at the same time, is that when I dedicate time to work things here, I got to, tell my kids, it's like, hey, during this daddy's going to be working, and I need to be very focused. Now, like, if I'm able to have that clear focus time, then you're going to get me unplugged and very present, for you then. So I think that that's the thing that has energized me a lot. And that's what scheduling helps a lot with. I think also making scheduling easier. So there's a lot of barriers, like honestly, when you try and like get on the phone with someone or whatever, like I like talking to people, and a lot of times people like interacting, but just like the effort that it takes. And so like, I like we talked about the politeness, or how people can take sending a link wrong. I love it, like actually getting systems in play, because I also schedule more meetings, because it's like, if I'm able to schedule at the right time and it's easier for me, I can have more people that I'm staying top of mind. And this goes back to like the book that I wrote called Top of Mind, is that if you make these processes and these habits easy for you with scheduling, who you're spending your time with, all that, then you can do a lot more, and you can stay top of mind with more people. And so that's where like I get energy when inbound opportunities come. So for example, like nothing gets me excited where like say we're on this call and I get an email that's like, hey, we have a new calendar, user, or hey, we have someone who wants you to help with, some PR strategy or media strategy. Those things energize me, because I don't have to do the work to go out and like hustle at a conference and be outbound sales calling. So I think that for me, making those processes very easy, and like, keeping things top of mind. And I think scheduling well and owning your calendar helps you a lot. And then the last thing is that owning your calendar is that when you're just doing like you're being lackadaisical about your calendar. So you're being kind of lazy about it. You end up having people take over your time a lot more. And so I call this time hijacking. And I am legitimately the worst person with getting time hijacked, not because of other people, because I have a significant problem with talking. I talk way too much, and I enjoy talking to others. So if I'm not very deliberate about my schedule, and people are in this office, I'm going to go out and hang out. That's a serious issue that I have to work out with myself. But the scheduling and actually doing it and creating structure around it, really, really does help. And so I think that just having the tool and being engaged in it, working in it more, helps me like think about my time more, and I'm a lot more productive and excited about what I'm getting done. So those are kind of the three areas that I would say.
Now hold on for a second. John just mentioned time boxing. He also mentioned Nir Eyal. Nir's been on the show before, so I would really love for you to go back to that episode. We talked about distraction, what that means, and how you can manage that. Being indistractable is what we talked about specifically. But on top of this whole time boxing thing, one of the resources I mentioned earlier is something I want you to go get. It's absolutely free. It will help you learn to use your time to a higher level, give you more effectiveness, energy management, and give you more productivity. So all you have to do to get that absolutely free is go to genehammett.com/productivity. You can download it and you will get free access to 3 different ways to improve your productivity, your usage of time, and it will give you everything that you need if you use it. Just go to genehammett.com/productivity. Now back to the interview with John. I want to kind of follow that theme with the making it easy for you, thinking about your writing skills, is what do we need to stop doing when it comes to our calendar? A lot of the leaders I work with don't have enough time. They literally prioritize a lot of other stuff other than actually spending time with their employees or difficult conversations. But I would love for you to just go through the one thing that you think we need to stop doing in order to really understand our own calendar and use it effectively.
I mean, the the first thing is to actually be able to say no. Like, so stop saying yes. So I'm a yes person, especially when I like someone. And so this is what I like doing at the end of the week. I go and I look in calendar, and I first, like right now, I'm looking at my top 10 encounters, and I'm looking through, and when I mean encounters, it's saying how many meetings. So I scheduled, there's one person I'm looking at right now that is my third person that I have no idea why I'm spending so much time with her. Like, and that person should not be taking up any brain space at all for me. So like, I'm looking at that now. The fourth one, absolutely. She's extremely valuable. That's somebody I should be spending a lot of time with on our team. And then, and the other person is not on our team. I just don't want you to think I was bashing the team. And so I look at this, and then the next one, yep, that's good. So I feel good about myself. Actually, 9 out of the 10 people I'm spending the most time with there. So I think for me is that, go in this, look at your encounters, every day at the end of the week, go over your calendar and say, hey, what should I have turned down? What should I have not got on the phone for? What should I have not done? And it will help you plan and accept things in the future. And so that's what I would say is like, stop the yeses. And this is something that I fail at a lot, is that I say yes way too much because I want to be helpful to people. But I think at this point, even myself, we're really working on myself of saying, hey, look at these, learn from it, and then plan better and be super efficient with your time. I'd rather have an employee work, a lot less hours and spend time with their family than, basically work a 60-hour week, and 20 or 30 of those hours were like pointless. And they were like, stuff that they really didn't need to do. So I think that at least that's the culture that I think we're moving into, is that your time is precious. And so you should at least be doing something that's important to you personally, or you should be performing well at work, but none of this like, oh, I spent 10, 15 hours, not being productive. So
if you have to be listening to this on YouTube, I'd love for you to hit the thumbs up. If you like this episode, you want to be a greater leader, have more impact, and have more time, then we love for you to comment below. Hit subscribe button if you want to make sure that you don't miss an episode, and the bell notification button. If you hit that, it will give you notifications next time we post content. If you want to be a better leader, be more visionary, strategic, make sure you stay tuned in to Growth Think Tank. Now back to the interview. I want to wrap this up with one question to help all of the leaders out there. You have a pretty big team across multiple companies. You've got some other side businesses where you have a lot of people on your team. How do you think about their time? I know you have the ability through calendar to look at some of the data behind this, but you're not trying to micromanage them in any way, or look at where they're being, when did they log into the desk and so that they started work. How do you really think about the time of so many people you have under your charge?
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, because you don't want to be a micromanager in this case, because I think we're going away from the time of micromanagers. There's a lot of data that micromanager can be devastating, and so I think that from my standpoint is that we look at the tool as something to help us out a ton and to help us really think about how everybody spends their time being, and then also what we can do better. So it's like, if somebody is, once again, spending a lot of time on long calls and their results and their performance isn't doing well, I think that like the way my brain works about like supporting a team is like, if we hire you, if we do our good job hiring, then you're the right person. And if you're not performing, there's something that we're missing here, and we got to find out what that is. And that's what I love about it, is that I try and say, hey, like, let's trust people. Like, I can honestly say in this moment, at this time, I trust everybody on our team. Has that always been the case? No, it hasn't been. And I've communicated you to this, Gene, is that I recently had an issue with trust. And we've tried to get that out of the area. I mean, in reality, we don't deal with that, moving forward. And I look at other people and I'm like, I do trust you. And if we do make a suggestion like that off, the time data, it's because there's like, hey, like, these are opportunities for growth. And that's where I would like, do not get a tool like a calendar or, one of the other data tools and use it to micromanage. Use it as a way to, look across the company on like what, who performs well and how can we share these? So if there's a salesperson that's just rocking out, how are they spending their time? And use that as a case study and say, hey, this person's really been killing it. Here's an example of how they're spending their time. They're spending their time on this many calls, doing it. Like, you're not diving into every little thing, but you can even ask them to present on it themselves. And that's what I've done before, is saying, hey, like, you are killing it. How are you spending your time? And share with other people is like, what are the practices? What are the habits that you do? So I think that for me, it's maintain trust with your employees as best of your ability, but then also giving them tools and information, and also make things easier on them. The easier you make, like, as funny as it is, if you just take one simple barrier away, it might prevent that extra little irk that pissed them off about a client that might not tip them over the edge. So if you can get technology or tools or something in play that just makes things slightly easier, you got to look at that as like, that could help. Like, let's say we do that 5 or 10 times with each employee. Like, it's great. Like, we just we're giving electric bikes to all of our employees. Now, people are like, why the heck would you do that? That's an expensive thing, and not many people are, and it's also a liability issue. We haven't even been able to insure it right now. So I'm still working on that. But why did we do that? Well, we did that because like, biking and exercise has been proven to obviously, help, your work life and, stress levels and different things like that. It's also a fun thing to do. And so, like, we look at those things as that, if we give them electric bikes, are they going to be more inclined to exercise? Yes. Will that make them, less stressed out of work? We hope so. And if that just helps in this little bit, there's going to be a big, like, let's say there's a client that gets mad and is like, wait, I'm pissed off about this. If they went for a morning bike ride, they might go into that meeting a little just more positive. And the same thing with scheduling. If you make scheduling easy, you don't have, like, because just think about how many times if you show up for a call and there was a missed schedule, it immediately starts an awkward conversation. And because you're like, oh, I'm late, or sorry about this mix up, or this, and you're apologizing even before you've even started a relationship with someone. So those are things that I look at across the team.
John, thanks for being here to talk about time and energy management, because I think not enough people really understand that our calendar is the central sort of energy for everything that we're doing. Some people take away the energy, some people give us energy. So that's one reason why I wanted to have you here on the show, talk to the people that are really tuned in to take their life to the next level. So thanks.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for having me. Love you, buddy. You're always a good friend, and look out for me. So anytime you need me on this to help out your readers or listeners, let me know.
I love this interview to talk about time, to help you create more time, create more focus, create more impact with the time you have. That's what I wanted to do with this episode. John is a personal friend of mine. We go way back, but I know he has specific knowledge around how to set up your calendar to grow as an individual, to grow as a leader, but also to help your team grow. That's what episode was about. It's how to manage your time. So that being said, make sure you keep tuned in to Growth Think Tank. When you think about growth and you think about leadership, think about Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.